So welcome everybody to Agile Estimation webinar. I am Gaurav Rastogi. Just a quick introduction for some of you who don't know me. I have been an IT professional for about 20 years. Have worked with various clients in transportation, retail, e-commerce, investment banking across multiple countries, UK, United States, Asia, India, and helped large enterprises to transform their agile mindset and create an innovation culture in those organizations. That's what I've been doing for last many years. I'm also a certified Scrum trainer. As a certified Scrum trainer, through Scrum Alliance, there are only about 270 certified Scrum trainers in the whole world, and there are only 14 in India. And I'm blessed to be one of those, certified Scrum trainers. So welcome. Today I'm going to talk about Agile estimation. So let's go. The first question comes is, why to even do estimation? So we will keep it very engaging, all right? So I would request some of you, all of you, to pitch in as and when possible. But yeah, let's just keep one conversation at a time so that we can structure it better, okay? So my question is, why do we do estimation? Why we do estimation? Anybody?
So that we can plan what we wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, so that we can plan what we thought we want to accomplish. But when we say plan, what are the factors of those plans? When you give a plan, what are the key factors of that plan?
The first thing is, what the scope is all about.
Okay.
Then how long it is going to take.
How long?
And how many can needs to work on it.
Yeah. So from an organization perspective, if you really see, I think I really like what you just said, Mahesh, right? When you get the scope or how long, really, you want to get to a schedule when you will be able to complete that work, right? You want to get to a date, right? I'm just giving a generic name to it called schedule or a neutral name. And another thing you would like to know is what cost it will be taking for you to complete that work, isn't it? When you estimate it, the bottom line is you want to get to a cost. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
So these two factors are key factors which represents your plan, largely. Yes. No, maybe, right? Now, these are the two reasons why we may do estimation. But the question we need to ask ourselves is this. If we give schedule and cost and we are not predictable in this, is that a good idea?
No.
No.
Even though we take a lot of time to get to a schedule or cost, and if we are not predictable, it is not a good idea, right? So the bottom line is why we do estimation is to bring predictability actually. Okay? So I'll give you a personal story, okay? And it may make you laugh also, okay? So about a few years back, there is a company which is quite a big company in insurance actually. So they have a technology division in India. And I was invited by that company to come and do a leadership session for about 3 to 4 hours. They wanted to get onto their agile journey, okay? And I was invited there to do that 3 to 4 hour session. And the way I structured that session was I had about 3-4 slides only to discuss, just very basic slides around agile. And rest 2 hours, I wanted to keep it like an open-ended session. Now, in that session, the CTO, Chief Technology Officer of that organization was there, and about 7 of his direct reports were there, and about 3-4 other people were also there, which were like, let's say, CTO -2 or something like that. So that means, all the key people were there in that room, including the head of architecture. Now, what do the head of architectures do? Largely, right? Whenever complex projects comes, they help people to estimate those projects, isn't it? They are quite responsible for that, right? Whenever these challenging projects come. So, you know what? When my 30 minutes were over and I was done with those slides and things like that, a hand went up, and that hand was of that head of architecture gentleman. And he looked at me and he said, Gaurav, I really don't trust you agile people. And he pointed finger at me. I said, that's fine. Can you tell me why did you make this statement? So he said, Gaurav, the reason I don't trust you guys is you estimate projects by playing poker. You see, now poker in normal, right, is not a good thing, not people think, right, because it's like a gambling, right? So he said, man, your whole premise of estimation is gambling, right? So how can I trust you guys? And for a second, it made me think, actually, that gentleman was, in his point of view, very right, if you really see, isn't it? How can you expect gambling to give you good results, right? So he was right. So I smiled and I looked back at him and I said, dear sir, I like your observation. It's an amazing observation. I never thought it like that. But let's take a step back. And can you tell me, why do you do estimation in your organization? So he also gave me an answer, like to get the schedule and to get the cost. And then I asked the same question to him, that if you are not predictable in your estimate, would your organization say that you are doing a good job? So he said, no. Then I looked at the CTO now and I said, dear CTO, can you tell me in your organization how many percentage of time your estimates are predictable? What do you think the answer would be? How many times in organizations your estimates are predictable?
Not that often.
Very less.
Less than 10%.
So I told him, sir, that means one thing is sure, whatever you are doing is not working. Isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Now, the gentleman was bound to say and think now. And that made that gentleman think. I said, see, I'm not here to advocate gambling. What I'm here to advocate is whatever you are doing, if it is not working, don't you think so you should look for another options at least to try with? Now that gentleman was willing to listen. Okay. So I just wanted to give you this story to just set the context. Okay. So the idea of estimation is predictability. How do you bring predictability? Right? While cost and schedule are just factors. Clear, everybody? Okay. So with that thought process, let's move on. What are the ways of estimations, we have seen in our traditional world? Forget about Agile. In past, how we used to do it. Anybody remember what kind of estimation in past we used to do?
It might be in hours or the day.
Yeah, so that was the unit of it. But anybody remember we used to do lines of code and then, the productivity of one person? Remember? We used to do. Anybody remember? We used to see the lines of code. Anybody from very, very old like me? All right. No. All right. So there was
lines of code, I remember. Yes.
Sorry, Lipishri?
Yeah, we used to count the lines of code. So this much lines of code in how many hours and
Right.
those kind of things. Yeah.
So some of you are too young, but they're used to my age that, we used to say, okay, lines of code, then one person can code, these many lines in a day. And that's how we used to see that, approximately how many lines of code we will do. At that time, the world was not that complex. I'm talking when, we used to write programs in mainframes and things like that. Then things evolved. Anybody remember then something called as function point came? Anybody remember function point? A little bit more scientific method? Yes, no, maybe? Nobody knows?
Yes, I do remember
Yeah.
breaking it down into smaller functions. I mean, identifying the screen and then simple, complex, medium, and then giving out numbers to them.
Yeah, SMC model, right? SMC model, simple, medium, complex model, right? So these have been something traditional which you have been seeing, right? Which people used to do in organization. There were many more other methods, customized methods per organization and things like that. Now, What have you heard? What are the ways of estimation in Agile? What have you heard? Anybody?
Playing poker.
Fibonacci number.
Yeah, so story points. Have you heard this? Story
Yes,
points?
story point.
Yes.
Now, story points leverages Fibonacci series, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? Then, have you heard of t-shirt sizing?
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Poker planning, you were saying.
Yeah, poker planning, right? Poker planning.
So isn't poker planning a method or basically a way to get the estimations done?
Exactly. It's a way of method. And that's what we are trying to see. That in Agile, what kind of methods you have seen, right? Again,
Sure.
there are many more out there. Okay, there are many more like affinity mapping. There are many more out there which you can use. Okay, ideal days, quarter days. There are many, many techniques out there. I'll not go into all of them. Okay, but these are some of the ways which you would have heard as you would have come along, Agile ways of estimation. Now, with this knowledge, let's go back. Let's understand what should be the mindset for estimation. Okay. If let's say, so since I can see video of Aman. Aman, can I talk to you for a minute?
Sure.
So Aman, where are you right now? In Indore?
Indore.
Indore. So so let's say from Indore, you have to go to Mumbai.
Okay.
It's a drivable distance, right?
Yes.
So if I ask you, from Indore, you have to go to Mumbai, how long will it take?
It depends on the route I take, because I take airway or by road.
By road, driving distance.
Then again, also it depends. I go by taking breaks or just one time.
Yeah. So give me some answer. How long will it take for you, for a month?
Yeah, it may take up to 12 hours.
Up to 12 hours. Now, Aman, if I ask the same question to somebody else, will it be same answer or it could be different?
It may be different.
Maybe different, right? Now, how did you get to this 12 hours? Can you give me some breakup? How did you arrive to this 12 hour?
Due to past experience.
Past experience. So you leverage some past experience, right? So have you traveled before to Mumbai?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So when you traveled to Mumbai last time, you took a vehicle, a car or something like that.
Yeah.
So what made you say 12 hours? When you went first time, what comes to your mind basis which you said 12 hours in your past experience?
Because we will take 2 breaks in between of half an hour, and we will have some average speed of 80-90, something like that. So based on that, I calculated the time.
Very good. So do you know the distance between Indore and Mumbai approximately?
Not approx, maybe it's 700 something.
700 something, right? So what you had in your mind was, a roughly distance, you knew your speed, which you may maintain, you added your brakes and bases that you reached there, right? So that's how you did. So largely what you did is you look at the distance in your mind, whatever you know as of now, all right? You took your average speed and you added some breaks, which you are going to take. Basis that you reach there, right? Now, if I talk to, can I talk to Asit?
Hi, Gaurav.
Hi, Asit. How are you doing today? Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So, Asit, do you read some books?
Yeah, I love.
You love reading books, all right? Okay. So, have you read Harry Potter series also by any chance?
No.
All right. Now, if I tell you that there are 7 series book of Harry Potter, okay? And if I tell you that, Harry Potter's 7th book is of about 500 pages.
Okay.
Can you give me an estimate how long will you take to read that book, 7th part?
You see, as per my experience, what I say is, if the book is very interesting and connecting my heart, it may take 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm not connecting, It may take 10 days, 15 days, or may not complete even.
Exactly, you may not even complete.
Yeah.
But let's say if you are put into a situation that you have to complete, how will you give that estimate?
So it will take, let's say, it's for my space, the way that I read, the way that I take breaks, and also the time that I read book, and what is the level of isolation that I have. If I'm getting consistent disturbance, or if I'm reading in isolation, if I'm reading in the daytime, or if I'm reading at the midnight, or maybe that's kind of a lot of permutation and combination. And based on this, keeping in scenario that I am reading alone, post everybody goes to the bed, from let's say 9 o'clock to maybe around 2 o'clock thereafter every day, that I may complete in 7 to 8 days time.
7 to 8 days. So again, what did you do, Asit? I gave you a rough idea about the number of pages.
Yeah.
Did you had your average speed in mind, that how many pages you read in an hour? Was that going in the back of your mind?
Yes, definitely.
Right? So you saw your average reading speed, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Pace or speed, whatever you want to call it. And you also looked at which time you will read, again, either breaks or isolation, you know, what time you are giving of the day, which will make you more focused, right? So you were again looking at breaks and, you know, isolation and so on and so forth, right? Which time of the day. So these were some of the factors which were playing in your mind again.
Absolutely.
Right? So you see a similarity between 1 and 2.
Yes.
Right?
Very often.
So that's how we think. Whenever we are asked to estimate, that's a general mindset anybody would have. Now, same thing would somebody have when you are talking about software also. Isn't it?
Exactly.
Pages or distance could be number of functions, number of classes, lines of code. It could be anything. Right? They will also see what is their average speed of doing that work, what time of the day they are doing, how complex. You also said one very beautiful thing, that whether I'm connecting to that book or not.
Yeah, that's
Is it too simplistic language, or it is like too complex, you have to put your head into it? Because the moment I say, instead of Harry Potter, you have to read physics book, which we used to read in our 12th class, do you think a lot of dynamics will change all of a sudden now?
I never completed a book.
I will never complete it. I also never completed it. You see, all these play complexity into the picture, right? Cool. Unfortunately, that factor a lot of time we miss is very, very important to understand.
Right.
To understand the mindset, everybody is clear on the mindset, that what is the normal mindset during estimation with everybody, right? Now, with this mindset in mind, let's move on and let's see what are the factors for estimation which you may need to have. So complexity is one, right? How complex that work is, right? Like Asit was saying, whether I get interest or not, whether it's a physics book or it's a story book or it's some concept book, right? Second thing is uncertainty, whether I'll get time or not, right? Whether I'm in isolation or not, what uncertain work. If I am during the day, I know that 100 other things will come in between while doing that, isn't it? While reading that book. Or same way, if you are driving, like Aman was driving, if you are driving in the day, there is a lot of uncertainty of the traffic. While at night, there might be more predictability or less uncertainty in the traffic, isn't it? Okay. Same way, risk. What in which situation you are in, right? Are you driving on a single lane where things are coming front of you, headlight is giving to you if you are driving, all right? Or the idea is that, you know, it is putting to you boredom and hence the risk of not even completing it, right? If you are reading a book. So the boredom could be one thing, that it is not even pushing you to go ahead. It is no matter how much hard you put yourself. And the volume. Volume is nothing but the distance or the number of pages or how many, how much amount of work it will require. So these are some of the factors which plays in estimation. So let's look at with an example also. So let's say this is point A and this is point B. Okay. Now, in between point A and point B, let's say there is this railway track. All right. Okay. So let's say you have to travel from A till B. Now, if you have to travel from A to B, the first thing you would like to know is the distance, isn't it? If you have to estimate how long will you take from traveling from A to B, right? That's the volume part of it. Are you with me? All right. Now, the second thing in your mind, the person who is estimating will have their average speed in mind, right? Now, if you just take these two things into consideration, it looks like a simple math. If let's say this is 10 kilometer and you can walk 1 kilometer per hour, how long will it take? 10 hours, right? So what are you doing right now? You're only considering volume. You're not considering anything else right now. Make sense? But unfortunately, in real life, it doesn't work like that, isn't it? So let's say you started walking or bicycling or whatever it is, your mode, and you come to this railway track. Okay, what could happen? Trains might pass, right? And you may have to wait here for some time, right? What if you come to know there is a small jungle also here in between? Do you think will you maintain this same speed? No, right? What if there are multiple trains going one after the other? Has it happened to anybody, right? You are standing on the crossing and multiple trains are going and you are thinking, man, why the heck these trains are not going? Happened to anybody?
Yes.
Right? So what are all these?
Yes, yes.
What are all these?
Is it hurdles?
Risks. Risks.
These are either risk.
Risk and uncertainty.
Uncertainty.
Or uncertainty.
What if it starts to rain in between? Right? So you see what all these three factors can also come into play. Our traditional methods of estimation, unfortunately, most of them were slightly not conducive to take into account of these factors, largely. Isn't it? And forget about the individual skills. That I'm not even talking about here as a factor. Make sense to everybody? Okay. So what we need is something which can take this into account also. The good news is, in the context we operate, we all are doing cognitive work. If I relate to either IT or mechanical or whatever work largely we are doing are more cognitive work. Okay. So we need to remember these other factors are also equally important while estimation. Only volume alone cannot do the work for you. Clear to everybody here? Okay. Now with this thought process.
Gaurav, one point.
Yes, please.
May I ask something? I'm always a little confused about this complexity and uncertainty. Can you just maybe give one example related to
Very good question.
one only?
Very good question. Now, see, if it starts to rain, okay, do you think your visibility will go low?
Yes.
You might be still driving, but it will make it little complex for you to drive now, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
But if the train comes and the door is closed, now it is uncertain for you. You don't even know when this train will come and when it will pass. You have to stop at the barrier gate.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Another thing is that rain might bring you complexity, but you don't know when it will stop.
Right.
So that rain example can bring complexity as well as uncertainty at the same time.
Right, right.
Clear, Santosh?
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great question. Now, in this situation, when you have complexity, risk, and uncertainty, how do you bring predictability, right? Because what did we started with? The bottom line of estimation is what? Predictability. And because of complexity, uncertainty, and risk, what will go down? Your predictability will go down. Now, what are the options we have? Let's look at it. If some of you know shooting, okay, if somebody does this, do you think they will get a good gold medal? For sure, man.
Yes.
I hope so. You know, after this also they don't get, then it's like a hard luck, isn't it? So this kind of a shooting will be called, it is accurate as well as precise. Now, what is the difference between accurate and precise is what I'm trying to help you understand. Anybody remember that in our, assuming that a lot of you are engineering background or maybe, you know, analytical background, remember in our engineering, we used to do something called as vernier caliper, right?
Yes.
To measure the length or
Yes.
something. But you also have a scale, right? So if you want to measure something from the scale, it gives you also a length. But if you measure from vernier caliper, it also gives you a length, but it gives you more precise. Are you with me? To the dot. That's why you used to use vernier caliper. Okay. So when you are roughly there, that means accurate. Okay. When you go to the points or more decimals, then it is more precise. So in this first picture, it is accurate as well as precise. Are you with me, everybody? In the second picture, what do you see? It is not accurate because we want it to be here. Right? Third, you see here, it is little scattered, but it is still within a periphery of bullseye. So what is the third picture saying? It is not precise, but it is still accurate. Are you with me, everybody?
But Gaurav, in this third case, may I ask a question, Gaurav?
Yeah, please, Asad.
In the third case, it is not accurate even.
So if you see from an accurate perspective, that from this circle perspective, it is accurate. It is within one larger circle.
Okay.
See, in shooting, what is your goal? Bullseye. Now, every time will you hit bullseye? No. So accurate is from a perspective that it is nearby bullseye. That's why it is accurate, but it is not precise because it is not together.
Okay.
That's why we are calling it.
So within the expected range of falling shot.
Exactly. You are precisely right now, if I can say.
Thank you.
Right? And last one is, it is neither accurate, neither precise. Now, when you are doing estimates, out of these four, okay, out of these four, would you ever like to be in this situation? This situation?
No.
No.
No, right? So can we rule this out? Right?
Yes.
Now, do you really think this will be possible?
5%.
Right? Right? Hardly any world champions get it.
Yeah.
Right? So that means in our real life also, expecting this will be like daydreaming, isn't it? Okay.
Yes.
Now, if we want to be this also, by the way, if some of you know or not, actually this also fetches gold. This can also fetch gold medal. By the way, I don't know if some of you know shooting or not. This also is good because all your work close enough, even though they are away from bullseye, but even if you do achieve this, you are still a contestant towards a medal, because this is also hard. You know why it is hard? Getting all your aim at a closer range is very, very difficult. Are you with me? So again, precision is very, very difficult. So this could be very difficult to get. Am I making sense here? Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah.
Then what are the options you are left with? You are only left with this option.
Accurate.
That means either you are right or you are wrong. If you can figure out how accurately you are right or how accurately you are wrong, you can figure out the deviation, isn't it? And you can learn from it. Am I making sense here to everybody? Okay. So rather than trying to be precise, what should we chase? We should chase
Accuracy.
We should chase accuracy. That it is good to be roughly right than precisely wrong. Are you with me? It's good to be roughly right or accurate than precisely wrong. Clear, everybody now?
Yes.
So this is how we can achieve predictability if required. Now, how do you get here? Let's go further. Now, if we try to really measure things, it will be very difficult. That's when, how do we get to precise now? Let's understand this. Let me take an example with all of you, right? Anybody here who lives in, Parag or Mahesh, anybody lives on a, building with multiple floors? Any one of you or anyone?
Yeah, I am living at 4th floor.
4th floor? And how many floors you have, Parag, in your building?
Total 4 floors.
Total 4 floor. All right. So can you check, do you have a ceiling on top of you? Can you check like this? Do you have a ceiling?
Yeah.
Yeah, make sure. Just making sure that it is not an open sky. Okay.
Right.
So Parag, I'm going to ask you a question. Okay. So have you been living long in this home? How long you have been living?
2 years.
2 years. So 2 years is good enough. Now listen to my question very carefully. Can you tell me the height of the ceiling of your roof in centimeters?
No.
You can't? Why? You have been living for 2 years. Why it is difficult all of a sudden for you?
Because height was never a parameter for me. It was, if you ask me the room size, probably 4 by 4 or 4 by 6, that I can tell you.
Exactly. So height you never realized.
Height was not a
I
parameter.
tell you, if I ask you, Parag, how many Parag stand on each other and you will reach the roof? Can you tell me now?
Yes.
How many Parags?
4.
2.
2
See,
or 3.
now
3.
all of a sudden it became easier, right?
Correct.
So this is called sizing. What did you do? You took a relation and you did some sizing. All of a sudden it became easier for you. Make sense? Now, with this concept, if I show you this bottle, okay, this bottle, and I ask you, how many Parags? Will that be easier for you now? Right? Now, all of a sudden, one concept which you learned, now it failed the other place. Right? That means things change. But that means your reference every time has to change. Now, if I ask you how many pens, now can you tell me?
Yes.
Roughly?
Roughly, yes.
Roughly how many pens?
2 pens.
2 pens. So that means in relative sizing, you have to change your reference every time. Otherwise, it may not work. So what is sizing? Sizing is nothing but you take a reference, okay? You take a reference point or an object and basis that you size. Make sense? Now, in order to do this, do you really need to know the length or height of this? Not required. Roughly. But do you think you will be accurate? How many pens? And are you accurate in the height of it? Yeah, you are accurate, but you are not precise. You are accurate that 2 Parags will be needed. Do you see? While you are not precise, you don't know exactly how many centimeters, but you are accurate enough to say 2 Parags or 2 pens. Understood now, everybody? Okay.
Yeah.
What do we mean by accuracy and rather than precision now? Precision would have been, we would have taken a scale first, taken this, or we would have literally spent a project to measure it with inches, centimeters, and things like that. Right? Clear now, everybody? Okay, cool. Very good now. So with this thought process, let's practice sizing now. And let's see whether we can size it or not. Okay. So what you need to do is this. You see some of these objects here. All of you?
Yeah.
What you need to do is this. Just think. This portion is called small. This is called medium. And this is called large. Okay? 3 sections, 3 buckets. Okay? Clear to everybody? These are 3 buckets, small, medium, and large. If I put this in small, okay? Now you need to place other balls into different categories. So if this set, these are called marbles, right? As you can see, these are marbles. If we say marble is our reference point, what these balls would be, and we are calling marble as small. So where do you think this will go? In small, medium, or large? Where would this go? Small, medium, or large? Where would this go? Small, medium, or large?
Okay.
That's the activity you need to do.
Okay.
Clear? Done?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Does it look something like this?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right? Good. So guys, if you do this, do you think it is faster compared to rather than saying, hey, what is the diameter of this? Then you need to know the formula of all the diameters, right? Isn't it? Don't you think so? That will take a lot of time to become precise.
Absolutely.
But now all of you, how quickly you were able to do it, right? So this is the mindset we need to keep it in our mind. Same thought process you need to keep with work also. Clear to everybody? As a mindset, I'm trying to build your mindset right now. I'm not getting into techniques yet. But are we clear on the mindset? We don't have to worry about precision. We have to focus on accuracy. We have to take a reference point, and basis that reference point, we have to figure out other things. 2 concepts clear? Okay. Very good. Now these 2 concepts will come very handy as we move forward. Okay. Now, what is the view of Agile on estimation? Okay. So Scrum is silent on how to do estimate. Right? A lot of you have done CSM from me. All right. So you know that Scrum is silent. That means Scrum does not give you a technique or a way. Okay. So in Scrum, what do we say? Who does the estimates? Developers in Scrum have the right to
Do estimates.
Why? Why developers have that right?
They know the quantum of work.
They know how.
They are closer to the work, right? The people closer to the work should do the estimate. If somebody else does, what will happen? Will you get predictability?
No.
No, right? So that makes logical sense, right? The bottom line is the people closer to the work should do the estimates. Okay. Now, what is the other view? Learn from what is observed. Remember, this is one of the things from empiricism also.
Yeah.
That means, even though you do this accuracy, once you start doing the work, learn whether you were able to achieve the way you thought or not. Make sense? And continue to inspect and adapt. Now, if you have to factor, you know, complexity, uncertainty, and risk, do you think one person alone can do that in a complex world?
No.
No, right? So what do we say in complex world? Scrum is to solve complex problems. In complex world, you need what?
Collaboration.
Iteration.
Yeah. That means if you are doing, sizing, if you do alone, that might also not be good. You need to make it a collaboration exercise. Clear? Otherwise, it will be only it may be predictable from your angle, not from holistic angle. Clear to everybody? this thought process also, right?
Yeah.
Then the next thing what we are saying is, in complex world, few or one person cannot be predictable in doing estimates. Clear to everybody now?
Yeah.
So this is also we need to remember. Now with this thought process, let's come that why Fibonacci series is used for sizing, right? So all of you know that we largely, not everywhere, but largely Fibonacci series is used for sizing. Now what is the rationale behind it? Let's understand that. But before that, let's understand what is a Fibonacci series for people who don't know it, okay? So the Fibonacci series is like this: 0, 1, 1, 2, 13, oh sorry,
3,
3,
4.
3,
5,
5, 8,
8,
13, and 21.
21, then what is this? 30,
33, 4. Yeah.
34,
34.
55.
Yeah.
Now what is a Fibonacci series? You add the previous two numbers and then you write the next number. You add the previous two numbers and write the next number. You add the previous two number and write the next number. You see this? 0 plus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. This is called Fibonacci series. Okay. So actually, what do we do in Agile is, instead of using Fibonacci series number, we use modified Fibonacci series number. Okay. So what is a modified Fibonacci series number? Let's look at it. Okay. So the modified series is 0, half, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 20, 40, 100. Largely, this is the series of numbers we use up to 100. Okay. Why did we modify it first of all? The reason we modified it is, if you see, if we write 21 here, don't you think so? It gives a feeling of precision.
Yeah.
Right? Because addition is what? 21. If I write 34, it gives you a feeling of, again, precision. So we don't want to show precision. Clear to everybody? Okay. Now, another reason is that there is a gap. As you move forward, the gap is increasing. Right? That means, remember that factor of complexity, uncertainty, and risk? All right. In a complex world, the volume increases and these all three factors, uncertainty, complexity, and risk, increases. Now, can you quantify that in absolute numbers with precision?
Gaurav,
Yeah, Sid.
I could not hear the last word. As the volume increases,
The
all
complexity,
this complexity, uncertainty, and risk also increases. You mean to say?
increases. Now, if the volume is increasing linearly, do you think the complexity, uncertainty, and risk will also increase linearly?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Will it increase linearly or not? Or exponentially?
Yes, Gaurav.
Both are possible.
Right? The idea is this, guys. When the volume increases, it will definitely increase, but it will not increase in addition for sure. That's true. That's why, to take care of that, we use Fibonacci series. That's one reason, because the gap is increasing. Another reason is, let's say if we would have taken a linear series, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on and so forth till 100. Now you have to do it in collaboration, right? Remember, if you have to do it in collaboration and one person thinks this is 4 and one person thinks this is 5. Okay? Then what will happen? Will there be any rationality between 4 and 5? Will people be able to give too much rationality, or they will say, hey, it is 4 only, na? It is 5 only, na? Let's agree on something and just get it over. Isn't it? But if they have to choose between 3 and 5 now, then what will happen? It's a 66% increase in estimate, isn't it? Now, do you think people have to give good enough rational why there is an increment of increase of 66%? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
Are you getting it?
Yes.
Yes.
So to make people rational, you use Fibonacci series. Clear to everybody? All right. So that's why we use Fibonacci series. Now, once we have understood why we use Fibonacci series, let's practice it. Okay. So let's assume we have to create a fruit salad. Okay. All right. Let's assume to cut one banana. All right. It is one fruit point. Okay. It is our reference. Remember, what do we say always? Take a reference. So your reference is banana, cutting the banana for a fruit salad. Clear to everybody? Now, if cutting banana is 1, what do you think a strawberry would be? Remember this, this is your Fibonacci series. Out of this, choose and tell me.
Maybe half.
Half.
Maybe half?
Half, yes.
Right? How about an apple?
1.
2.
2.
1 or 2, right?
2.
Right? So you see a difference of opinion here now, all right? Now, 1 and 2 is linear, right? Again, do you think you will argue too much, or you will say, okay, 1 or 2, right? After a point, what people will do? You see what happened just now? Because 1 and 2 are very close, you might not argue much. But let's say we put 2 here. Now, between strawberry and apple, did you see that any risk, uncertainty, or complexity increased, or only volume was increased?
Volume.
Largely volume increased, isn't it?
Yes.
But now if I tell you pineapple, do you think volume increased for sure?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you see complexity increased also?
Yes.
Some of us might not even know how to cut a pineapple.
Yeah.
You see? Right? So now tell me, what would you do?
I'll take 13.
5.
Right?
5 or 18.
Maybe 3.
Somebody is saying 5, somebody is saying 13. Right? Now what will happen? Now do you think we should discuss that why somebody is saying 5 and why somebody is saying 13? So if I ask Asit, why are you saying 13?
Because cutting banana is extremely easy. Just peel it and cut it.
Right.
While cutting this pineapple, you need to cut, not only that, you need to get rid of this thorn also. Otherwise it will get, yeah.
So Asit, have you ever done pineapple by yourself ever?
Yesterday I did.
Wow, awesome. Yesterday. So now everybody knows what Asit had yesterday in fruit salad. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So somebody said 5. Why did you say 5? Hardik or somebody, right? Anyways, irrespective of that.
Maybe because of the size.
Because of the size and things like that. But you see, now what will happen? Some people in the team would have never ever cut pineapple. Some people would have just cut it yesterday, right? So let's say if somebody says 5 and Asit says 13 and Asit said, I just did it yesterday. Do you think you will give more weightage to his experience now all of a sudden?
Yes.
Definitely.
But how this was possible? Once you started talking. Without talking, it will not
Possible.
work. Are you with me now?
Yes.
So let's say 30.
Gaurav, I got a question here.
Yeah.
Is the reference point is always 0?
No, the reference point was 1.
Okay.
Now, in our scenario, that's a very good question, Asit. Very good. Now, in our scenario, we took 1 as a reference point.
Okay.
Now, can you take 2 also as a reference point? Yes, you can. But can you take 100 as a reference point? That might not be very prudent, isn't it?
Because
Right?
yeah, it will not be possible.
Right? But yeah, I have seen teams who take 2 or 3 also as a reference point. That is also okay.
But to have this reference point also, we need to have an agreement, Gaurav.
Yeah, it is a good idea that everybody agrees that this is our reference point.
Okay.
Absolutely. Otherwise, again, you know, if the height of Parag's home, we start taking different reference point in our mind, then it will be very, very difficult, right? So that's a very good idea to have a consensus on that. Now, if I tell all of you that you have to put coconut in this fruit salad, then what will happen? Right?
Scratch my head.
Scratch your head. How many of you have cut coconut yesterday? So you see, now you all might say, hey, it is too complex. Let's not even worry about it and let's directly put 100 and not even scratch our head, isn't it? Are you with me now? So certain items you might say, guys, there is no point spending too much time to even think how long it will take and even estimate it. Just call it extreme. And what is the extreme in this Fibonacci series number? 100. And 100 in Fibonacci series means 100 or more. That means 100 is something like that, hey, I don't want to spend time estimating it, so I'm calling it 100 or more. Are you with me? Do not take 100 as literally. That means the more forward you go, okay, you are trying to say, I do not want to spend time in estimating it. That's all actually you are trying to say in a way. Are you with me, guys?
But Gaurav, I got a question here.
Yeah.
I don't know whether is it an appropriate question, but I'd like to ask this.
Please, please.
For example, if I'm considering as a team, we are considering 100 as the base point. Don't you think that we should not think about the feasibility, because there is no feasibility since there is no predictability in this project?
Yeah. So sorry, I think we are mixing two questions. I didn't say that take 100 as a base ever. That's what I was saying. Never ever take 100 as a base.
No. My point is that suppose we are taking 1 as the base, and we see the estimate is 100 points.
Yeah.
In that case, don't you think that this project is not at all viable because there is a non-predictability as well as the uncertainty is there?
Exactly. That's what you are trying to say. So that this is not the right time to estimate it is what you are trying to say. So you better go and clear some unknowns and then come back and estimate it. Okay. Precisely you are trying to say that only. Your understanding is 100% correct.
Awesome. Thank you. Bro.
Very good. Clear to everybody now? Okay. Awesome. Now, when to use relative sizing and when not to use it. Okay. This is where a lot of time people get confused in most of the organizations. Okay. Now, this curve which you see is called cone of uncertainty. Cone of uncertainty. If this is time, okay, and this is unknowns. Let's say you get a new project with a lot of work. Okay. Initially, you have a lot of unknowns, right? And as the time passes, your unknowns go down. Yes, no, maybe. Right?
Yes.
That means if you are at this place, somewhere here, this is the good time to do relative sizing. Why? Because it is not a good idea to be precised here. You cannot be precise, right? At this level. Make sense to everybody? So the more relative you will do, the better it is. That means from this backlog, choose one reference point and basis that estimate the others. Are you with me now?
Yes.
Gaurav, I could not understand it properly. Can you help me
Yeah,
understanding?
I will. So the point I'm trying to make is when your unknowns are more, at that time, if you want to do it in hours, is that a good idea?
No.
No. That means you should do relative sizing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Got it.
When the time is passed, your unknowns are lesser. At this time, if you do it in hours, is that a good idea?
Absolutely. And now this is related to our Agile learning also, Gaurav.
Exactly. Precisely, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Now, in your project, if you really see, these are the 5 levels, kind of, when you do a project or a work. You have a product vision, you have a product roadmap, you do a release planning, then you do a sprint planning, and then you do a daily planning, right? So at this level, if you do relative sizing, it's a good idea. If you do relative sizing at this, it may not give you a lot of benefits. I am using may not. It depends upon, again, context to context. Some teams also do it at this level, relative sizing, but that depends upon their context. Are you with me? Am I making sense here? Clear to everybody?
Right.
Yes.
Awesome, guys. Good. So now you know when to do during the life cycle of the project I am talking about. Okay? Not a particular piece of work. I'm talking at a whole project level. Good now. Now let's understand when teams are mature in Scrum, how do you leverage this technique? Okay? How do you leverage this technique? Let's learn that. So let's say this is your product backlog, right? This is how it looks like, a product backlog. So the first thing you should do is do discussion. What should be your discussion? Discussion to understand this backlog, right? Understand all these product backlog items, isn't it? Roughly on a high level. Clear to everybody?
Yeah.
Now, once you have understood on a high level, do you think this team can get to a common reference point? Yes, no, maybe? Let's say they decided this as a reference point and they start calling it as 1. Clear to everybody now?
Yeah.
Now, if this is 1, and if they ask themselves how many times, like the way I asked, how many parats, right? Do you think after some collaboration and discussion, these people will be able to size this item also? Let's say they call it. So what is our series? Let's write our series. 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 20, 40, and 100. So let's say they say this is 3 times, 3x. Everybody understand 3x, right? 3 times of this. So if it is 3 times, then what do I need to do? I need to go 1, 2, 3 times here. So what is this? The size of this is 3. Clear to everybody?
Yeah.
Now they say 4 times. This item they say 4x. So what is 4x? 5. Isn't it? If they say 5x, then what is it? 8. Clear to everybody?
Yeah.
Very simple. Okay. Let's say this way they sized it total, and the total comes as 80. Let's assume that. So far, everybody with me? Now,
Right.
do you think this will take lesser time compared to what we used to do it in hours? Way lesser time?
Yes.
And it will be collaborative, and everybody will be in understanding of what we are trying to do. People will be collaborative, right? Very good. That means which steps you have done? You have sized all the other items. You have a total size now. Now, if your team is mature, do you think they will have something called as velocity available with them? Right? So let's say the velocity of this team is 8.
Gaurav, what is velocity? Can you help us understand?
What is velocity? Okay. So velocity is nothing but if there is a mature team, that means they have been doing these sprints in the past. That means on an average, they know that how many points they are able to do it?
Right.
Right? How many points they are able to do it in the past?
Yeah.
Remember what did I say? What Agile says? Learn from what is observed.
Observed. Right.
So velocity is nothing but what you learn from what you observe.
Yeah.
So let's assume this team does 8 points on an average every sprint.
Okay.
That means you have a fair idea their speed of work. Now,
Yeah.
if you do 8 per sprint and if the total is 80, do you think you can know number of sprints now?
10 now.
So 0.3 divided by 0.4. 0.3 divided by 0.4.
4. Yeah.
That means 80 divided by 8.
8
How
is
many
equal to
sprints?
10.
10 sprints. Okay. Now, if you know the start date of your work,
Yeah.
can you calculate the end date?
Yes.
Basis how big is your sprint? If
Yeah.
it is 2 weeks, that means 20 weeks. If it is 4 weeks, that means 40 weeks. Whatever it is, right?
Got it.
Now, do you know every sprint what is the cost of your team per sprint? In dollar or rupees? Right? You would know, right? How much salary you are paying? What is your cost? You would be able to know.
So this is the role of a product.
Yeah, product owner. Product owner. Yeah. Right? Now, if you are you with me, everybody, right? That you would know the cost associated with your team per sprint, right? If you add infrastructure cost or all the other cost, do you think you can get the cost of the project? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Here. Now, do you think it will be more predictable than before because you did it in collaboration?
Yes.
Right? Another good reason is that, let's say you have 10 sprints and after 3 sprints, you see actually it is not 8 and it is 7. Do you think you can make necessary changes to achieve it?
Yes.
Right? So you see, you are mitigating your risk also, overall risk. Is everybody with me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what could be the second scenario? What if the team is new? Right? That could be another scenario. They don't have their velocity now. What do you do now? Right? So same thing. First, you will do discussion, right, of this backlog. Do you think they can get to a reference point that this is their reference? They can get the size 3, 5, 8, and so on and so forth, and the total is 80. All this remains same. Either it is new team or mature team. It doesn't matter. Yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, 10% plus minus it could be.
Yeah,
possible.
exactly.
Otherwise, same. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much same. But steps will remain the same even for a new team.
Yeah.
Right? So you get the total now. Now the only issue is you don't have the velocity. Then what do you do? If the team is new, if you hide this for a minute from them, after doing this, hide it. And if you ask them very simplistic question, guys, do you think you will be able to do this together in a sprint? And I don't care whether somebody is sitting idle, but as a team, can you complete this one or not? Whether everybody is occupied or not, I don't care. But will you be able to complete? Do you think this team, after some discussion, they will be able to tell you whether they will be able to complete this one or not? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
They'll be able to tell whether they'll be able to complete it or not.
Yes, yes.
Now, after let's say they say we will be able to complete it. Now, if you ask them after completing it, do you think you can complete this also? It doesn't matter if some people are sitting idle, but you have to do only sequentially. You cannot do parallelly. Do you think they will be able to answer this question also? Right? So let's assume they say we will be able to do 2, we will not be able to do the third one. All right? Now what do? You unhide these numbers now. So what does this team feel on an average? They feel they will be able to do 8. That's their feeling. While it is feel-based, but don't you think so? Rather than being predictable, it is still accurate because everybody feels together. Number two, you have not taken parallelism into account. That means you have taken some caveat of complexity, risk, and issues. Right? Understood
Right.
that part? So with this basis, now do you think you have this feeling now? Your feeling is 8. Do you think now you can get again the number of sprints is 10? 80 divided by 8? Right? Do you think you will be able to get the cost and schedule the same way as you did in the mature team? But one extra thing you need to do with this team is this: when this team starts to work, very closely observe what they are doing. Because this is a new team. So let's say they are able to do 6 in first sprint, they are able to do 7, and they are able to do 6 in third sprint. Now, after 3 sprints, if you total it up and divide it by 3, can you think now you can get the velocity? Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah.
Now, this is more you have learned from what you have observed. Again, you have leveraged that principle.
Yes.
Right? Now, basis this, if you need to update your client whether you are still fine or not, can you do that?
Yeah.
Rather than in our traditional world, when do we used to go back to our client with bad news? In the end. Now, do you think after 3 sprints, even if it's a good news or a bad news, you can go back to your client? Right? Now, let's say you go back to your client with this number. What is the total? 6, 7, 7 and 6, 13 and 6, 19. 19 divided by 3 is like 6. Right? So that means earlier you were taking 10 sprints. Now you would need how many sprints? Can somebody tell me? Almost 14 sprints.
Yeah.
Right? Roughly 14 sprints. Now, if you go back to your client and say, dear client, you have 2 options. If this work, everything is important, then we need 4 more sprints. If you are willing to negotiate on some of the work, then I can still give you in 10 sprints. Are you with me? So what are you doing now? You are going back to your client with options. You are not going too late. You are going too early. Clear to everybody now?
Yeah.
So this is how it works. The thought process is clear to everybody now?
Yes.
Now, what are the techniques? Some of the very popular techniques are like poker planning and like t-shirt sizing. There are many more also. Okay, but these are the basic ones. I don't want to go into advanced today. I want to keep it at a very basic level. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to show you a video how to do poker planning now. Clear? Mindset is clear. The basis is clear. Thought process is clear. Now it is about technique, how to do poker planning. Okay. Now poker planning is a technique where, let's say you are 5, 6 people in the team. Everybody get a set of cards. On that card, that Fibonacci series numbers are written. Okay. Now you do in collaboration. How do you do? Let's watch a video. Okay. Very closely. Cool, guys. Watch this carefully.
So let's talk about how to pull all these ideas together into an estimating approach that works. The technique is called planning poker, and it's loosely based on the Delphi and wideband Delphi approaches that date back to the Rand Corporation in the 1940s. In planning poker, each estimator, which should be everybody on the team, is holding a set of cards that contain the numbers the team has agreed to use as their estimates. Normally, this will be the modified Fibonacci sequence, but that's really up to the team. The product owner reads a product backlog item, usually a user story, to the team. The team and the product owner discuss the item. Team members ask questions. The product owner clarifies expectations. This can be as short as a few seconds, but it can take as long as needed. Once each team member has decided upon an estimate, they pull that card out of their hand, holding it so no one else can see it. When everyone has picked an estimate, the cards are revealed all at the same time. If everyone is holding up the same number, we're done. Write that number down as the estimate, and move on. But if the numbers are different, we discuss it and then estimate again. Let's see an example. During the first round, our estimators hold up a 3, 8, a 2, and a 5. At this point, I really want to hear from the outliers. Why an 8? Why a 2? Anybody can talk, but in this case, I would really want to hear from Vadim and Ann. Vadim might say, well, I'm the tester on this project, and this is going to be really hard to test. I need to build a new test framework, and so on. Ann says, well, Vadim is right. My 2 is too low, I'm going to come up. But I've programmed this type of thing before, and it's not that hard, so I'm coming up, but not all the way to an 8. Anyone can talk at this point, but I especially want to hear from the outliers. After anyone who wants to has had a chance to talk, each team member again picks a number from the cards in their hands. And then all at once, the cards are revealed. This time, let's say we get 3 5s and an 8. At this point, I'd ask Chris with his 8 to give us an impassioned plea for why 8 is the right estimate. I was with a team a little while ago that had all 8s except for one 13. I asked the guy with a 13 why. Boom, boom, boom. He gave 3 good reasons why he thought it was a 13. And on the next round, everyone switched to agree with him. So notice this isn't a vote. We don't say that the majority rules and pick a 5. We keep going until we get to a consensus. The consensus may be a little false, but that's okay. Suppose we go another 2 or 3 rounds with Chris holding up an 8 while the rest of us have 5s. At that point, I'd probably ask Chris if he thinks we've heard his arguments, but that we just disagree. If he does think we've heard him, he will eventually fold and hold up a 5. I'm okay with Chris folding. After all, the difference between 8 and 5 isn't that great, and we're pretty far up the effort accuracy curve we saw a few minutes ago. Now, if Chris had been holding up a 100 instead of an 8, I wouldn't want him to fold. If we're that far apart, we're probably facing one of 2 problems. 1, product uncertainty, which is the product owner saying something like, good question, I better run that by some users. It could go either way. Or 2, technical uncertainty, which is when the team thinks that doing the user story will be easy if they use one particular technical approach, but hard if they take another approach. So whether it's product uncertainty or technical uncertainty, if the estimates are hopelessly far apart, put the story aside, do the research, and then estimate the user story next week or whenever you get together again. Or consider using a range if reducing the uncertainty will take more effort than you want to or can invest. If team members ask the product owner what type of bear, koala bear or grizzly bear, and the product owner can't say, your best option is to write down 5 to 100. One challenge with relative estimating is how to get started. My recommendation is for team members to look at the product backlog and find something they want to call a 2. Don't play planning poker quite yet. Just find a 2. Something small, but not the smallest. I don't want you to waste time doing a bubble sort on your product backlog looking for the smallest item. Instead, someone on the team points to one user story and says, that one's a 2. Team members can argue if they disagree, but they keep at it until the team finds one user story that everyone can agree is a 2. Then look for a 5. Remember, we're only really good across one order of magnitude, so finding a 2 and a 5 establishes us a good baseline across most of that order of magnitude. I don't really care if you find a 2 and a 5. Maybe find a 1 and a 5, or a 2 and an 8. Any of those is fine. The idea is just to get a pair of numbers that everyone agrees on and then start playing planning poker. I want to mention briefly that if you're looking for planning poker cards, we do sell the cards at our cost on our website.
All right. So, clear on this? So this is a specific technique called poker planning technique. All right. This is what we do. Now, the gentleman you heard actually is named Mike Cohen. He's also a certified Scrum trainer. And this gentleman has done a very good work in the field of Agile and Scrum. Okay. I personally really admire him. And, I have personally learned from a lot from his blogs and things like that. So this video is very worthwhile watching, actually. Cool, guys. So
what is his name, Gaurav? I could not hear.
Mike Cohen. I will write his name to attribute this video. Mike Cohen, C-O-H-N. He has written some great books also, How to Succeed in Agile. Okay. Succeed with Agile. Cool. Now, guys, I want all of you to go back to the questions you wrote here and write done in column B if they are done from your side, so that whatever is left is what we should take as questions. If your question was answered, please write done in column B. All right. Okay. So is there any question left which people would like to ask? We have another 5 minutes, but I'll be happy to answer some of the questions if people have. Any questions I can take?
So this is Amit. So which one is the best technique for calculating the points? Is it poker planning or is it Fibonacci series?
So poker planning, if you see, is leveraging Fibonacci series. So Fibonacci series in itself is not really a technique. Fibonacci series is leveraged in poker planning technique.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Thanks.
Welcome.
Hey Gaurav, am I audible?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, I have one question. Like, if there are multiple team members in the team, right? And if there's a single item where they're discussing and they are not fixed on one item, like someone is saying 2-pointer and another one is saying 5-pointer, and they still maintain on the same numbers, what should be the right decision to took on that particular thing?
Very good. So if you remember the video where Mike Conn was talking, he refers to that. He says, see, you know what? Ideally, he said that, hey, I would still make them think, right? I would not say that only after 1 round or 2 rounds. That's what his point of view is, all right? But let's say, you know, Amit, there is a situation that you have to do that. So what I have done is, on a practical basis, I make teams to decide their working agreements upfront. That means I make these team members to decide, like anybody remember that World Cup match where India and Pakistan, you know, had to do that bowling on a empty without a player? Remember that what was that called? Yeah, it was called something called as super over, right? Like that, right? Anybody remember that 2020 match, right?
Super over.
Sorry, Amia, what are you saying?
Super over.
Super over, right? So that means somebody would have already thought that what if there is a tie or nobody is folding, right? Like as Amit's situation, that person is saying 5 and this person is saying 3. Then what will you do? So those kind of working agreements, I as a coach help people to upfront define. Okay. Now I see some teams, they say, hey, since right now the unknowns are more, let's go with the higher one. Sometimes some may say, hey, you know what? Let's give it back to the product owner and product owner to come back with answers and then re-estimate it. So different teams do different things. Does that help as an answer, Amit, to you?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Any other
Gaurav, Meghna here. I have a question. So these techniques, right? We estimate them in points or we estimate them in t-shirt sizes. But ultimately, as a team member who's working, these have to be converted to hours, right? We would have to convert them to hours to define my task.
Okay. So I would say you don't have to convert anything into hours. What I would say is this. Remember this cone of uncertainty when I showed you? Through this, let's say you are start of the project. Through this, you came to know how long this project will take, right? So that's what your management wants, right?
Right.
This is that you divided how many sprints you will need. I already explained.
Yes.
Right. So now your management is happy with the cost and the schedule, right? Now they don't care about anything from here onwards, right, Meghna? right?
No, but we were able to sort out the number of sprints, but we were not able to sort out the length of a sprint.
Sorry, what do you mean by that?
The length of the sprint, that would define the time a sprint would take. Now, time is like hours, right?
No. So now you are getting into two questions, Meg. Now.
Okay.
So how did you get to the number of sprints? The velocity is basis per sprint, right? That means you already know the length of your sprint.
Okay.
Right? So your velocity, if you are saying 8, that means either it's a 4-week, 2-week, 3-week, you already know the length of your sprint, isn't it?
Right. Okay.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Either it's a new team or an old team. That is not a problem.
Correct.
So that is taken care. Now, hear me out. So that your management part is taken care. You have understood the cost and schedule. Now it is with the team what they want to do. Now, as you enter into a sprint, out of this big backlog, you are going to take only some item, which is called sprint backlog, right?
Yes.
Now, this sprint backlog, the unknowns are lesser compared to the whole product backlog.
Correct.
Now, if the unknowns are less, do you think you can estimate in whatever best way works for you? If it is hours, estimate it in hours. If it still works for you on story points, do it in story points. If it works in minutes, do it in minutes. Whatever it works for you, you want to do it in function point now, you want to do it in lines of code, you decide. Are you with me? Egna? But
yeah,
if somebody wants to, if the problem starts when you say that now I will have a formula which will say one story point equal to 8 hours, that's when the problem starts.
Okay.
You need to keep them isolated and secluded with each other. That's what I meant when I said this, that when you use story points or relative estimation, through that you get to the cost and schedule and your management is happy now. Inside the sprint, how you are doing it, they should not care about it.
Okay.
Clear? Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
Gaurav, I have one more question.
Yes, please.
So when we are just planning the sprint planning thing, and let's say our story points are approx 50 for the sprint.
Can you be a little louder? Amit, sorry, it's very hard.
So is it fine now?
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah. So I'm saying let's the fitting capacity is 50 points for a sprint. Okay. So we have planned the work in 50 points now. So when we planning, we thought the single item will take 5 points, but while doing the implementation, we come to know we are able to achieve it within 3 points itself. So is it good idea to reduce the 5 point to 3 point, or we have to keep the 5 point as it is?
No. So you don't do that. Why? In that sprint, you will do more. Right?
Yes.
All right. Now, what is velocity? Average of last few sprints.
Yes.
Right? So that will show up. So what a product owner will continue doing it is, let's say you gave your stakeholders that it will take 10 sprints. Right? I gave you an example here that this is 676. It could have been other way around also. It could have been 9, 11, 9. You could have gone with a good news to your stakeholder. Hey, dear stakeholder, we will finish it early. Right? Are you
Okay.
yeah, both the things are okay. See, if you
No. So it's okay. It seems there's a bit confusion in the question. So my question was, let's say there's single item which we plan to finish in 5 points, but while planning we thought we will take 5 points for this particular item. But when we start implementing it, we come to know we will be able to finish 3 point itself. So
how
in
do you
the
come
what
to know? How did you
after the implementation? After the implementation.
Hear me out. Is this point equal to ours? Then how can you come to know? You can't ever come to know. See, if I am making that fruit salad and I said pineapple is 13, did I ever said it will take 30 minutes? How would you ever come to know? You can't come to know. You can only come to know if you have a measurement saying 1 point equal to 3 hours. Then you can come to know. But then that's the wrong way. That's what I said.
Okay.
Are you with me, Amit? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool, guys. Any last question?
So Gaurav, then what is the measurement then?
That's what I said. It is unitless. You don't have to worry about the unit, right? See, are you chasing unit or are you chasing predictability? That's the question.
No, even the predictability will only come when we are choosing the unit.
Okay, so in our example, I never took the unit, and all of you saw that you were able to get to cost and schedule without any unit. See, that's what I'm trying to say. This is the mindset change organizations need to do. We are chasing the wrong thing. How does it matter? How did I reach to a predictability? Remember that story I talked about, that architect in the beginning, the first thing I talked about, that gentleman? That gentleman was thinking the way he is doing is the only way on planet Earth. And that's why he said, Gaurav, I don't believe you agile people. But when I asked the question, are you predictable? Then he had no answer. So the point is not to chase a unit. The point is, how are you getting predictable? How does it matter whether you have a unit or not? You see?
But even estimating the cost also comes only when you are clear about the unit, Gaurav.
So did you see my example? Were you clear in my example? How did I get to the cost? Were you
No,
clear?
this I understood.
Yeah.
But when you are saying the cost, this cost part.
Cost is with the unit. I am saying estimates is not with the unit. Cost is with the unit of dollar or rupees. Obviously.
Okay, that's why I got confused. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. The cost is with the rupee and schedule is with the date. Is just that the estimate is not with the hours.
Yeah, that I understood.
Awesome. Perfect. Then we are on the same page. Sorry about that. Cool, guys. It was pleasure being with all of you. Thank you for being there. I hope it gives you some value and it adds some value to you. And feel free to reach out to me. All right. And feel free to, recommend your friends, on Universal Agile. You can go back and look my schedule on CSM courses and feel free to recommend your friends to do these CSM courses. All right. So that'll be also helpful to me. All right. Yes, Saroj.
Gaurav, I have a smart question.
Yes, Saroj.
Not technical. I have completed the CSM certificate last month.
Awesome.
Can I do the ACM course or I have to wait 1 year to do it?
No, you can do ACSM course. They are looking for 1 year experience. That could be prior to CSM also.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Good, guys. And also, if you like this session, please drop a note on LinkedIn and tag me that, hey, you like this session. That will also be helpful to me. All right? Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Gaurav. Yep. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you, Gaurav.